Welcome to Entreprogrammers Podcast, the podcast for developreneurs, the podcast where you get to be a fly on the wall listening to real conversations of three developers trying to tackle the challenges they face as entrepreneurs.
After that call.
Right, we're live.
Oh, we're live?
Joining us in mid-sentence for Chuck. Yeah. I was just saying that I finally got my new monitor. The whole process took about 2 weeks. It was ridiculous. It was supposed to, I ordered it on like a Friday and they told me they were going to deliver it on Sunday, which I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. No, it was 2 weeks later. But yeah, I'm really liking it. It's an LG. I don't know the model number, but I believe it's 34 inches diagonal. It's got a curve to it. So it's kind of weird because I tend to I try to look into the webcam when I talk a lot of times, and now it's like up here. So I feel like I'm talking to some guy who's about 6'3". Oh wait, I feel like I'm talking to John.
Don't look at the camera. That's creepy.
But
that's the ultimate, right? Though.
What? Go ahead.
The ultra wide is the ultimate, right? I mean, because dual monitor was actually better than really big 4K monitor, and all that the ultra wide with the curve is it's dual monitor without a line down the middle. It's perfect.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, it's really nice. So I've got on my Mac I installed an app that lets me snap windows to like in Windows, so you can snap them to either side. And so I have 4 desktops on my Mac that I can change with control arrows, so I can shift back and forth. And I've got 4 of them, and then each one has just like basically 2 windows open on it. So I have like one desktop that's devoted to chat, and it's like Slack and Skype, and then like one for my working one is like the browser. I've got one just for Scrivener. So yeah, it's with the curve, it's really cool when you switch desktops. It's like whoosh, it's like this swooping feeling as you move to the next desktop. It kind of feels like it's wrapping around you.
You need to lean into it, so when you switch desktops, you lean a little bit to the left.
Yeah, actually, that would be pretty cool if it would like pick up my motion and switch. Of course, then it would probably do it all the time. But
get one of those EEG scanners, and then when you think left, no, other left.
Yes.
Scanner. I on a whim, I signed up to run a half marathon tonight.
Where are you at?
That sentence has probably never before been uttered.
Well, actually, I uttered it a year ago when I signed up for my first half marathon.
That's right, yeah.
But aside from that, maybe I'm only the only person who said that twice.
Yeah, but where are you? Where would you be running at?
I'm in Rome.
So Rome.
It's Rome by night is the half marathon. Somehow it showed up on like my Google Maps. So I was like, oh, I should sign up for this, right? So I signed up for it. It's today. I signed up for it yesterday, like last night. I got an email from the event organizer. They're like, you can't run unless you have you're part of a professional sports team, or you have a run card, and you have a doctor's participation like certification that has an EKG, pre-stress EKG, after-stress EKG, spirometer test, and urine analysis. So it's like, are you serious? I was like, so I emailed her. I'm like, I'm not going to compete. I just want to run the half marathon, right? And she's like, yes, this is what really regulations are to run. I'm thinking like, what?
Wow.
I told her, I was like, in the US, I just sign up for a half marathon. They don't care if I fucking die.
Yeah, you sign a waiver that says you are not responsible if I have a heart attack halfway through the race.
Right. So apparently that doesn't fly. Apparently maybe that you can't assign responsibility away in Europe. So anyway, so I went to a doctor this morning and I was like, strange request, but and I'm of course trying to say this in Italian, and then they're like, do you speak English? I'm like, provare Italiano. Do you speak English? Yeah, okay, so yeah, all right, fine. And so then they're like, yeah, we could do that. So I got an EKG test
Oh my
and
gosh.
analysis and everything. So I have a certification from an Italian doctor that says I can run tonight. So I'll be running a half marathon.
That's awesome. Anything interesting come out of the EKG?
Well, the doctor, asshole, he says when I get, so he has me like do
Socialized
EKG.
medicine, John. What do you expect?
He has me do an EKG, right? And then he has me like step on these steps, climb up these steps for 3 minutes, like up, go down, I'll go up, go down, right? And then he does EKG again, and then he's like, okay, and I was like, everything's good, and he's like, you after the exercise, you're not a very good recovery for a long distance runner. And I was like, yeah. He's like, you've run this before, these distances, and I was like, no, I've run a lot of half. I ran a full marathon 2 months ago. And he's like, oh. I was like, yeah. I was like, I'm not setting any world record. Like, I think they're all like thinking I'm going to compete. I'm like, I'm just running for fun. I don't know. Maybe they don't run for fun here. I don't know, but like, I think, yeah, I realize I'm a big guy. I'm not built for long distance running. I'm built for sprinting, but I can do it. You know, he's like, okay. You know, so I was like, if I lost 30 pounds, I can be faster. I get that, right? So, anyway.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Wow.
We'll see.
So I have to share.
Oh, go ahead.
And it's funny because on Wednesday when I initially did this, actually it was closer to Thursday, but I was wearing my Trust the Process shirt. And
All right.
I think it's appropriate because essentially what I was doing is I was working the process to find sponsors. And I'm not going to tell you who the company is, but I want to read part of this email just because it kind of it just kind of drives home, you know, some of this stuff. So that we talk about every week. It says, thanks for continuing to reach out, Chuck. We've had some great success with podcasts, and I just had a meeting yesterday to expand my buy in that area. So your time meeting was spot on. Let's work on a media buy for the rest of the year. I don't know what the cost of a show is and what spots you have open for each moving forward. To help get started, let's work within and then he gives a budget, which is a 5-figure budget.
Nice.
I won't be more
I got to
specific
count
than
them
that.
in my head. 3, 4, 5. Okay, good.
And then he says, I need a week to get promo codes and landing pages set up. So let's go with a 9/4 launch. So he wants to launch a week from Monday. I'd like to do something in each show, if possible, to see what sticks, and then I can narrow it down for next year. So he wants to sponsor all of the shows through the end of the year, and he wants to pay for that within a budget that basically would take care of the basic needs for both the business and me through the end of the year.
Very
Wow.
Nice.
And
That's
it was just it's the routine follow-up that I do over and over and over again.
Yep.
And it's funny because so much of this, it's, you know, you can have all these doubts, right? Well, I don't want to bug these people, and what if this and what if that, and you know, I just don't know if, you know, if they're going to get pissed off. Well, if it bugs them, they're going to say, you know what, we're just not going to sponsor, you know, don't bug me anymore. And then I just bug them a whole lot less frequently. Right?
Exactly.
I follow up in 3 months. Has anything changed? Just, you know.
Yeah.
But anyway, you know, but just sticking to this. And the other thing is, you know, I mean, I don't know if I've talked to you guys so much about this, but, you know, I was starting to wonder, okay, do I need to get a full-time job? Do I need to figure some other way of making money out? Do I need to start taking contracts? I did talk to you guys about that. And you know what? It worked out. So, yay. The other thing that kind of came out of this, and it's funny because the different books that I've been listening to lately, I just finished Secrets of the Millionaire Mind again, and they talk about being open to receive money.
Yep.
And then I've been also listening to a book called You Are the Placebo by Joe Dispenza.
Hey, I like that guy. I just read a book by him called Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself.
Yeah, he mentions that book in this book. And I think the third chapter, he basically sums it up because he's like, look, all the stuff I'm going to teach you after this is based on that. But basically he's talking about the power of your mind, and he talks about the placebo effect first, right? That people can heal themselves with their minds, and it gets a little bit out there, I'll admit it, but at the same time, it talks about the power of your mind in other ways, in your ways to affect the world and the energy that you put out into the universe. And it ties in actually pretty nicely with the way I view faith, religious faith. And so I'm like, you know what, I can attribute this to God instead of energies I put into the universe or whatever. But yeah, it was really interesting. And so I've really been changing my focus and my outlook on things, and I feel like that has also affected this, just in the way that I think and pray and meditate and kind of envision what the outcome that I want. But yeah, I'm pretty happy about this. I went downstairs and cheered with my wife, and then came upstairs because I had just read the email right before this call.
Oh, sweet. Very nice.
It's so true though. That concept of like, I firmly believe that who you are will determine your circumstances, right?
Yeah.
Not the other way around. Everyone thinks it's like, oh, I'm who I am because of my circumstances. No, you cannot change the inner without the outer manifesting. It will change. It will. Who you currently like. That's why the only thing that we should really strive for is to just improve ourselves, our inner, because it changes everything. Like you can't rise above it. Like there are people that that they constantly are stuck. And you're like, everything should be working for you. Like you have all the opportunities that everyone else has had, or that someone, right? You're doing all the right things, right? Everything from, right? But for some reason they can't rise above the level. And it's because they're not ready. It's because internally their internal state is determining what their outside manifestation is. And I know it sounds crazy and it sounds cuckoo and all this stuff, but like, it's the only way. It's the only way to change the external is to start with the internal. And I really like Joe Dispenza because he some of his stuff seems a little bit out there, but it's honestly like it's the truth. Like that's and you see it like time and time again. I have seen it in my own life. I've seen it in other people's lives. And just like you said now, it's like, once that changes, then the outward changes very quickly.
Yeah, they talk about it in The Secrets of the Millionaire Mind too, and in there he basically, he doesn't go as deep into it, and he doesn't get into as much of the science as Joe Dispenza does, but T. Harv Eker, he does. He basically says, look, your inner world determines your outer world. And it's funny because he talks about people's wealth barometer and things like that, and what temperature you set at, so if you're set at $50,000 a year and you bring in $100,000, you are going to blow $50,000 because you're not set up to handle more than $50,000. And it sounds crazy, but the thing is that I think most people just aim for comfortable. They just aim for normal, whatever that means to them. And so if they get to that point where they're looking at the world and they're going to settle into what feels natural to them. And unfortunately for a lot of people, that's way below what they can actually do. And then we subconsciously sabotage ourselves on anything above that $50,000 or anything above that normal or moral or whatever our hang up is.
It's interesting too, like he also talks about in that other book, in the Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. It seems a little bit strange, but it's worth at least a consideration, which is the fact he talks about like the quantum mechanics. And he talks about like how, in quantum physics, the observer, right? The thing is, the wave particle duality, right? He says that when you observe, right, the observer, that's when the state becomes solidified, right? And when it becomes like these subatomic particles, they're in a field, right? It's like a field, it's like a wave, but they become one or the other, like where they're at, their location only comes into reality when someone observes it, which is,
Right.
I mean, this is just bizarre, but this is like, but this isn't even weird stuff, right? I mean, it's bizarre, but this is actual science. Like, and like what I'm saying now is not fringe at all. This is just like pure, every physicist would agree with what I'm saying. But he says, he goes on, this is where it gets more to the fringe, is to say, well, based on that, why would you not think that like everything in your world or reality has that? I mean, if all the micro pieces of it have that attribute, then at a larger scale, shouldn't that be true as well? And so he basically says that, you know, what you determine in your brain and what you choose to observe will determine what the reality is. And that makes a lot of sense, right? Essentially there's an infinite number of realities, right? And it's only when your mind determines what it's going to be that it becomes that, which makes a lot of sense. Like we can shape our own realities. And then, I mean, just tied to that concept, again, is just this idea that like every single thing that exists in the world started off as an idea, as a thought, right? I mean, energy and matter are interchangeable, and there's nothing that exists that was created that didn't start off as a thought in the mind, right? It did, right? I mean, every single thing did, and so it's kind of funny that we're now to think that, okay, well, your positive belief or your mind can't make something change in the world. Of course it can. It's the only way that it can. I mean, you know, so I think there's a lot to be said there. That again, it's a little bit fringe. It seems a little woo woo, but you know, I don't know. In my experience, it's pretty hard to argue against it because I've seen it, right? Even though I would have been a skeptic before.
Well, and the way that you described nothing was created without being created in the mind first. I mean, that again speaks to my theology and the way that I view, I mean, the creation of the world in general. And so if that's the principle upon which it was created in the first place, then why wouldn't it continue to work that way now?
Right. Exactly. So regardless, I've never seen, you know, people always say, oh, well, survivorship bias and whatnot, but I've never seen the opposite case, right? It's like, I've never seen it.
I love that
like,
point.
Do you know people that are like super successful and they're just like, they have horrible mindsets and they're horrible pessimists? Like,
no,
I don't know. Like, I don't know anyone that's like super successful that's like a pessimist. It doesn't make any, that doesn't believe any. You know what I mean?
Once in a while, I think you'll find somebody who has succeeded like that, who's stumbled backwards into some success principle because they're so pessimistic or something. You know what I mean? Like their pessimism will drive them to do something else that lines up with being a more optimistic person.
Oh, I see. So it's
you know
like,
what I mean?
so you're saying they don't follow the religion, but somehow they found the magic spell book and they're performing the incantations, not knowing what they're doing.
Yeah, I think that, but that's the only, I can think of a few people that are kind of that way, but
yeah, I think it's strange, but at the same time, I mean, I have a friend that he helped start Authorize.net. He also then created an LDS dating site. LDS is Mormon dating site, and made millions of dollars there. He put all of that. He had to sue Authorize.net, and I think he's still waiting for some of that money. The other fortune he put into an investment that he can't get it back out of. And he's, but he's still out there creating and living, and he's a millionaire. He just can't, his assets are extremely illiquid. But yeah, I mean, he has every reason to, right?
I know the feeling.
Don't tell me it's a coal mine or a gold mine. No, it's a gold mine in Argentina, wasn't it?
It was real estate, but it was foreign real estate.
Okay.
Anyway,
I'm close. That was a gold mine.
You are close. But anyway, but the thing is he's out there creating a new thing now. Yeah. And I think that just kind of speaks to, he's going to be a millionaire again. It may not be this venture, but it may be the next one. Yeah. Because he had done, since I worked with him, he had done another venture that had made him a bunch of money. And it's just, it's who he is. It's not what he's doing. And I think people miss that point. It's his approach and his outlook and the fact that he's seeing these opportunities and just going for it, as opposed to thinking of all the reasons why it won't work, or all the reasons why once he gets that money, he's going to go wind up investing it in something else that, is going to not pay off for him in the short term or whatever.
Yeah, and that's the attribute. That's the thing is like, where no matter what happens, you're going to rise to the top. Like, I mean, it's like it's like Superman. You drop him off somewhere, he's going to be super. He's not like, because it doesn't matter what he's doing. Like, he's going to excel at the thing, and that's to mix some Nietzsche philosophy in there.
Yep.
With comic books,
but anyway, so I've been slaving away this week on that. I also did try and finish fixing up that van. Turned out that the engine's shot, so I'm just going to sell it for parts. But it was funny because this is the other part of like whatever manifesting. And I mean, I had a much more direct hand in this, but I've been talking about, okay, I need this to come together so that I can go down to VMworld, because I've got all of these appointments set up with people who want to talk to me one-on-one, and you can kind of see where this is going, right? And so I was like, okay, well, if I sell it for parts, that's not enough to get the family by. I mean, it kind of is now that I know that I probably have some money coming in next week. But at the same time, it's like, I really feel like I need to go to this. It's an opportunity that I shouldn't miss out on. And it turned out that my father-in-law has to go down to Las Vegas the same week. And so he was like, well, I'll go down. You can just stay in my hotel room. Right. And so then I just have to come up with food, and I'm meeting him halfway, and he's going to drive the rest of the way. So that's half the gas bill. And
you're
so
a brave
again,
man going to Las Vegas with your father-in-law.
I've done that more than once.
I could think of two bad things that could happen there.
Yeah, well, if he does any of those things, I won't tell anyone.
You don't want to know. You might find out something that you don't want him to know. Either one of those would be very bad.
Yeah. Yeah, the first time I went to CES, we went together and walked through the show together. So, but yeah, so anyway, so that all worked out too. Where half or more of the costs have been defrayed by him, and yeah, he's like, well, I may as well go when you need to go. Okay. Yeah. And so again, it was just kind of the way that instead of giving up on it, I was okay. Well, let's find a way to make it happen. And yeah. Anyway, I feel like I don't want people to feel like I'm bragging. What I want people to get out of this is, there is some power in envisioning and working toward things, even when you don't see how they could possibly work out. And it turns out that a lot of the big accomplishments that we have out there, they sound impossible when you start thinking about it, like going to the moon, or, SpaceX, they had the, having the rockets land on a pad in the middle of the ocean. The physicists were telling them it was impossible, but they figured it out.
Let me give you an exact quote from a text message I just sent yesterday at the day before. This was in response to something luck happening to me. Do you not recall that I have a semi-charmed life and get everything that I want? Luck has nothing to do with it. The very roads bend themselves under my feet to make a path for me.
Yeah, but it's not magic. It's just it
no,
really
but I believe that. I honestly believe that.
Yeah,
everything I want, I get it. I get everything I want. It always works out for me somehow, and I believe it. And it just happens. It's funny. Like on this trip, so many things have happened, and it's been like, wow, like how the hell did that happen, John? It's like, well, because it's gonna happen, because it has to. It's my destiny. So
Yep.
Just like with the doctor thing today, right? I mean, I just signed up for a half marathon, and it all just lined up perfectly so I could run it.
Yep. The funny, like Chuck, to the thing, I've definitely this was when I first went freelance. I had a lot of the anxiety. Like I lived in that anxiety mode that you were in 2 weeks ago, and my wife did to a certain extent too. But it's after a while you sort of start to get. This is more just for everyone else listening. Like you start to recognize that this stuff happens. Like what just happened to Chuck happens all the time. If you,
Yep.
this is how it works. So you don't always know where the next thing's going to come from, but it's going to come. And when you experience it enough times, you still get a little anxious, but it's also kind of fun. It's like, you know, who's gonna swoop in and save the day this time? How's it gonna work?
Exactly.
Yeah.
But it requires the mindset changes, the belief, right? Because it works both ways, right? Because you know the people, right? I mean, every one of us knows a person where the shit always goes wrong for them, no matter how they somehow they fuck it up somehow, right? And it's like, but they always predict it. They're always like, oh, I knew that shit was going to happen to me. I knew this was right. And they always think that the worst is going to happen to them, and it always does, right? And then you've got people that, you know, like I'll count myself into it, that I always believe it's going to work out somehow for me, and it always does. It always does. It's like you got to pick the mindset. It's not that like bad shit doesn't ever happen to me. It does, but every time the bad shit happens, I'm like, this must be for the good, right?
Yeah.
And then it is, right? It's like, you know. So
Well, the other thing about that's interesting is that if you watch those people, some of those people, you're going to be like, okay, you know, they did really great up to this point, and this is where they sabotage themselves. And then other people, they wind up flinching back from what they think is going to happen the entire time, and through that they wind up sabotaging themselves the entire time. And it's really interesting, you know, or they're just not aiming high enough.
Yep.
And so they get to the top of the hill, and it's like, you know, the view wasn't as great as I thought it'd be here.
Chuck, how many times do you follow up with people? I'm curious. Like, what's your sequence right now?
It depends. The people who I have like an active lead with that, you know, haven't gotten back to me, I follow up on them every week.
Okay.
And so, you know, if I don't hear back from them, I just email them another week later, and I'm like, you know what, I bet you're busy. You know, hey, you know, here are some opportunities. I usually try and change up the messaging a little bit. So, like one person, I followed up with her like the entire summer, and because they were ready to sponsor, and then it just didn't happen. And so I followed up with her the entire summer, and I kind of didn't get any response. And then I sent an email this last week and basically said, hey, do you want me to do a demo of your product? You know, would that pay off, you know, instead of talking about sponsorship for conferences or podcasts? And I got an email back within a couple hours.
Nice.
Right. And so, you know, I tend to see if there's some other angle I can hit that speaks to what they think they need, and see if I can make that work. For the people who, you know, they need some time to talk to their boss or figure things out, or, you know, usually these are the people that I've had a call with and they're just trying to figure things out. A lot of that is more undefined as far as timelines, right? So it's like, well, when do you think you'll know? And I don't get good responses to that. So I tend to follow up with them every 2 weeks.
Okay.
And just, hey, you know, I just was, you know, hoping you got an update. Did you have a chance to talk to your boss, or, you know, whatever, you know, maybe they need to shift their budget or something. And a lot of times that works out and they wind up eventually coming around. Mm-hmm. And then the last group is the group where it's, hey, look, we've spent all our budget this quarter. Why don't you talk to us about next quarter? And so then I have kind of a specific time frame, and I start following up with them anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks before that time frame. Because if they're spending all of their ad spend for the quarter, like when I'm trying to sell them on Q2, and I follow up a month before Q2 starts, and they say we're full on Q2, that tells me I need to get in a couple weeks before that so that I can get a piece of that pie. And so I just set my time frame that way and follow up then. And that seems to work out pretty well, you know, and eventually I'll get to the point where they say, hey, it's too early. And so, yeah, I can kind of figure that out, or that, you know, I'll hit them at just the right time when they're planning their ad spend for the next whatever time period. So it's kind of part art and part science, but I find that those timeframes tend to work for pretty much everybody that I'm reaching out to. And I also have people that I've like met at conferences and stuff that I'm not quite sure what the opportunity is. And so those ones I tend to follow up with every week too. And if they don't get back to me, and then I kind of follow that same rule of thumb for the rest of it. But for some of them, it's, hey, let's just hop on a phone call and see what we can figure out. Or a couple of the people I met at CES, they don't really have a product that I would sell to my audience, but you know, they have something interesting to talk about. Like I had a lady that was working on a robot that folds laundry, and so I'm like the robotic challenge of that and the programming challenge of that has got to be, you know, kind of immense, right? So, you know, I'm like, let's just have a 20-minute chat and see which audiences, you know, would be interested in hearing about how you did it. And, you know, and she seemed interested in that. So, because it gets the word out about her product just in a different way. And so, you know, just things like that where it's not necessarily money, but at the same time, you know, it gives me that kind of follow-up. And I'll have a whole bunch more people to put into that sequence once I come back from VM World.
I've started sending everything anyone ever sends me to Josh as a advertising. I'm like the little paperclip. It's like, it looks like you're trying to advertise on our site by slipping an article into our site.
Yes.
Would you like to find out more?
I can always tell when John's going through his twice weekly email processing, because my Josh at Simple Programmer address is I have it syncing through POP, so it's like every 30 minutes or every hour or so it syncs. And so I'll just be working away, and I'll have my inbox down, and I'll be like getting close to being done with all my start emails, and then my inbox will refresh, and it's like 20 messages from John. I'm like, oh.
You've got mail.
Yeah. Here we go again.
Most of them won't turn out to be anything, but I just figured if someone's interested in like be demoing a product or recording a video, or they want to post an article on the site, they want to reach our audience. That's what they're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's not a bad idea. I get those emails too, and generally I start talking to them about sponsorship, and they're like,
we did get this really good company though that wants to like sponsor everything we have, essentially. Like they want to, like, they have like a library, almost like Safari books or something like that, and they have
interesting.
They want to take our podcast and put them in there, and they want to take our book and take the book and put it in there, and then they want to sponsor our podcast externally as well. So that could be a big deal for us.
Yeah, I'm working with them right now.
That's interesting.
Yeah, they've got like a publisher model, so it's actually pretty much like Pluralsight, where they monitor usage of your content and then pay you a slice of the revenue,
right,
relative to how much overall, to your slice of the pie of overall content consumption.
The cool thing too is that they have a huge platform, so we'll just be able to reach a lot of people. We'll probably just, I think, I can't remember how many of so many million subscribers that they have, but it's a huge reach.
Yeah, anytime someone is willing to pay you to send you customers, that's a deal worth taking.
Yeah.
Right.
But that stuff eventually comes along. You know, it's funny how it's like you hit this dry spell, and then all of a sudden, bam, you get, you only need a couple of those like really fat fish, really, to do well. So.
Yeah.
That's
by the
cool,
way, speaking of that, thanks for hooking me up with the referral on Pluralsight.
Sure.
Oh yeah, you're welcome. Be curious to see how that ends up working out. They're they've never, so they seemed like the guy that we were working with before didn't really seem like it seemed like the sponsorship was the last thing the affiliate program was like the last thing in the world that he wanted to think about.
Yeah.
I think you'd agree with that, John. I mean, like, it would be a long time before we'd hear from him, and then like he wouldn't answer our questions, and then we'd have to ask the question again, and then it was like this horrible slow motion game of ping pong. But this new guy seems he's got fire in the belly, and seems really interested in growing it. So
yeah, I'm surprised with that. Because we're sending, I was thinking like, there's no one sending Pluralsight more referrals than us. Like, there's no way. We're sending like 1 to 2 referrals a day. Like, who else is? I mean, maybe there's someone else, but we have to be in the top 10 of like
unless
work with
there's
us.
unless there's some really big site that's like like a sitepoint.com or something that's just massive content farm that sends them a lot. Like, I can't imagine too many bloggers beating what we're doing.
So I can tell you what he told me, because he, I was like, do you have any like high performers that, just seem to knock it out of the park? And he said, yeah, just do what John does.
Well, there you go.
There you go.
All right.
I don't know if that means that you're, but he said that you were one of their top performers. I don't know how you quantify that, but
It has to be. I mean, I'm just thinking like from affiliate perspective, like we're sending a lot of signups to them per month. So they should be taking care of it. So I'm glad that we have someone now that will probably take care of us and work with us, because we can double how many we're sending them. If they make it worth our while, it's the better the revenue source it's for us, the more we're going to focus on it, right? Obviously, right? I mean, that's what I think the other guy wasn't getting at Pluralsight. That's what's frustrating me. I'm like, look, we're sending you a lot of business. Like, we can, this is easy.
Well,
make it worth our while, and we'll send you even more.
I can see where this guy might have been coming from, though, because Pluralsight, at least for the last couple of years, has been heavily focused on B2B.
Yeah.
And that's kind of been their baby. And so he may have felt like he just kind of got saddled with B2C, because when I talked to the guy that you...
it wasn't his full-time job. I didn't get that impression. Yeah. It was like, it was a redheaded stepchild that, so it was probably like, he had like, it was probably 10% of his overall workload, and it probably wasn't on his performance review, right? So he didn't care about it.
Plus, we just landed them a B2C, like a $3,000 B2C deal.
B2B.
Oh, really?
Yeah. John emails him. He's like, this large line item here, why does it say 0% commission? And they're like, oh, yes, we should pay you for that.
We should actually, Josh, we should do we should talk about doing a B2B campaign with them, because I could totally do a video and be like, look, here's the email that you send to your boss. I mean, we could send an email. We could say, like, sign up here. Like, you want to get your team to do Pluralsight. Like, they can give them some materials and some whatnot. And we could send an email and say, like, here's the email you send to your boss that says why Pluralsight, and sign up your whole team for it. And we could sell those, I think.
Oh, yeah.
So because we have a lot of team leads and managers and whatnot that subscribe to the YouTube channel. And so I think that would be the... it could be highly profitable. So
like
a email course, like literally like how to get all the training you'll ever need.
Well, that would be the course, right? Is here's how to and you could even make it free. Here's how to get your boss to pay for your your training, your personal growth. And then you offer them that, and, maybe a couple of other educational products. Here are the ones we recommend, but this works for all of them.
Yep.
I might have to steal your idea.
Oh man, I always knew this mastermind thing was just a sham.
Yeah.
I know, you should have gone into masterminds with barbers and fishermen or something. They wouldn't steal your ideas.
I'm kind of ready to go home and start working now. I'm like,
yeah.
I'm hitting that point where I've been gone too long, where I'm like, okay, I've had enough of this. I saw the Vatican. I'm done.
The Vatican.
I got to say in the cathedral in
Sistine Chapel.
Sistine Chapel. It's small.
Yeah,
it is. You think it's gonna be like this huge thing, but it's like this. You're like, I can sort of see a finger there. It's like, no, I mean, you can see a finger, but it is small. It is smaller than what you would expect.
You're talking about the fingers, the God and Adam. Yeah, I have a poster of that right over. I don't know. It's kind of behind the chair, but I have a big poster of that because I love.
Well,
that.
When you get the poster, it's just you see this big blown up thing, but when you actually get out there, you look at it, it's like just one little panel.
Yeah, it is, but it's not that big a room.
No, it's not that big of a room. Not really. So. But you know what's interesting? It's funny because when you're in there, they're like Silenzio, and they start, and then it's like every single language, silence, Silenzio. They do this for like 10 minutes. I'm like,
yep.
And they do it every 10 minutes. Some legislation must have been passed where they're like, well, you know, in all the churches, we need to make sure that everyone knows that they need to be quiet. We need to do it in all languages, and we need to do it every 10 minutes. Someone signed it, that's a law, and so they have to do it. I guess it's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
I can't help but crack up when they're looking at me. I'm like, I'm sorry, it's just too damn funny. Because they did this in multiple places, multiple religious sites, and it's just the same thing. Like someone gets up and they do it live too. It's not even recording. It's like Silenzio. The guy's job. There's
job
also
security.
There's also a Trevi fountain in Rome. There's like a squad, like a goon squad of like 7 guys that their whole job is to make sure you don't sit down on the fountain. Like there's this perfect marble that's set there, a seat, and you cannot sit on the seat, right? And
yeah.
So my daughter sits down too, right? And he, you know, whatever, she gets up, and then I'm not even around. I come around, and then he comes up to me and starts lecturing me. I'm like, as if I sat down on the fucking seat. I didn't sit down on the seat. Tell her not. You must not have children, because if you think you can control your children, they do what they want to do.
You can control them sometimes when you're actually looking at them. The second you turn your head.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. So
He didn't come up to Silenzio.
Oh
man.
I'm definitely ready for John to come back too. If only to take this workers' comp thing off my hands.
Oh, this is the bureaucracy. This is such.
Oh my gosh. So I talked about this. I think I've now spent at least 4 solid hours on this, trying to figure out how we get workers' comp, or how we get it, or how we get exempted from it. So yesterday I was looking into it again because I hadn't gotten to any resolution on it last time. So I found this website, and they're like, okay, John was like, why don't we just buy it? Like, instead of screwing around trying to get exempted from it, why don't we just like buy it so we don't have to think about it? So I was like, okay, let me find out how to do that. So I find this website that's like a broker, and they have access to like 35 different insurance companies. So I call them up and I explain what I'm like, look, dude, I don't want this insurance. I basically just like, John and I are never going to file workers' comp. It's just not going to happen. We're just trying to make sure that we're legal. He's like, I'm like, we don't want this. He's like, oh, what you need to do then is you need to call the California State Insurance Fund, and then you just need to tell them that you want an owner exemption policy. And I'm like, aha, that sounds exactly like what we need, because the problem in California, okay, you have to be exempt. You have to file. John and I should both be exempt, because we're like owners. We're like stock. We're officers in the company essentially. Well, in California, in order to exempt yourself, you have to sign a waiver, and then you have to submit it. And the place you have to submit it is to your insurer. So if you don't have insurance, if you don't have an insurer, you have nowhere to send it to. So we basically need to buy insurance just so we can exempt ourselves. Like it's just not, yeah, it's just, it's utterly ridiculous. And actually they passed the bill. So they passed this bill last year in California, and then they passed it and no one really read it. And then they realized
you have to read it to know what's in it.
Well, you have to pass it to know what's in it, right?
That's right.
Your aide tells you what's in it. Your aide tells you.
So they passed this bill, and apparently the entire insurance industry missed all these implications of this change that they made. And so it's like, there's literally like, there appears to be no way for us to comply with the law. Like
Well,
it is,
as long as they don't enforce it, I guess it's
yeah.
not a big deal. There's also
but
laws like sodomy and stuff, which
it's basically,
extreme
but it's
on Sunday.
basically like they they passed it. Everybody has acknowledged now that there were all these problems with the bill, and they're working on another bill to fix all the problems with the first one. But in the meantime, we're just trying to be compliant. And so he's like, okay, you need to get this owner exemption policy. And I'm like, that sounds perfect. It sounds like a shell thing that you just buy for like $20. And it's like, okay, now we are your insurer of record, and you could submit your exemption waiver to us, and we'll take care of it for you. Like, that's what I'm thinking and so I'm like, oh, that sounds perfect. So I call up, he gives me a number, I call them up, and I start explaining it to her, and she acts like I'm talking Greek. Like, she's like, I have no idea what he was talking about. You need to call the Department of, and I was like, oh my gosh, no, that's where I started this whole thing. So yeah, so we're gonna get a quote and find out. But we were thinking it would be kind of cheap, but it actually, just the estimates that I was seeing was that it might cost like $2,700 for the two of us per year, like for something that we don't want and we'll never need and never use. So yeah, I'm gonna get an actual official quote, but we're not really sure.
I've got two sources. You might already have them too, Josh. Is our CPA in California CPA?
Okay,
we could
Bob?
email him, Bob, and
Yeah.
just to explain the situation to him. And then I have a lawyer here that's setting up asset protection and stuff.
Okay,
And,
connect me with the lawyer. That would probably be because the problem is nobody wants to nobody that you talk in Pennsylvania, they were like, I was shocked. They were like, the first person I talked to was like, he's like, oh, you just need to talk to the auditing department or whatever. So he transferred me to them, and they were like, oh yeah, you don't need it. And he sent me the policy in writing. That was that. And then, but in California,
so you're sure we don't need it then?
Yeah, no, I'm satisfied for PA that we don't.
Well,
need
that was the one I was scared about. I don't care about.
Okay.
California. Because
Okay.
California hasn't sent me any kind of threatening notices. So let's just email Bob and make sure. I think he'll say, I think that's good enough, and then we can just
Okay.
Now that we've publicly said that
Yeah.
There you go.
we don't have workers' comp, great, but
Yeah.
we're trying. Like,
Yeah, I think honestly, the only way I think we could get in trouble is if John or I filed a complaint saying that we got hurt. My kid kicked me in the nuggets while I was working, and I think that should be covered because I was at my standing desk and I was exposed. So
yeah,
That's not gonna
happen. I don't think we have an issue. I mean, it doesn't make sense. Like, everything I've seen from legislation says that you don't need. This is so bizarre though, because every single person who owns it, every single business has to do this, right? Or like,
right.
And how many? 80% of businesses are operator owned, right? Like,
Yes.
single
Yeah.
operator businesses, or however they call it. So, if you pay yourself a salary, you have to, or you just ignore it. I don't know. It has to be so. I think maybe we're just like most people are just oblivious, and so they don't.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, my CPA helped me figure all this stuff out. In fact, he filed all the paperwork for me as far as like unemployment with the state and all the other wacky stuff that you're supposed to pay to have a business in Utah. And so I might have workers' comp, but I seriously doubt it. I think he just, it's like, this is what you got, and this is what you got to pay. And so I just pay it every month.
This is why I voted for Trump, by the way. So. It is.
Oh no! People are like, unsubscribe.
Exactly. But if there's any reason, it was because he promised. I want to see him lighten the load of legislation, because the bureaucracy in business and entrepreneurship in the US
it's ridiculous.
is absolutely fucking ridiculous. It's so ridiculous. This is ridiculous. I mean, think about it this way, right? Like, you have to you can't do payroll unless you hire Paychecks or someone like that. Like, it's just, I mean, yes, I know you could do it, but you either have to have a full-time accountant working for you, or you're going to spend like 10 hours a week running payroll, like just to pay yourself a damn check, because you got to remit to, federal tax withholding. You've got to do quarterly returns on that. You've got to like do all of this stuff. It's just, it's ridiculous. Like, that's just to pay payroll, right? Not to mention if you have employees that work in different states and crazy. It's just crazy. Plus all the, I mean, my tax returns are literally this thick. I don't even know where the camera is on this thing, but they're a stack, right? It's ridiculous. So.
And then they're trying to save the environment, but they're cutting down all those trees.
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh. Anyway, I'm probably going to be asking for you guys' opinion now that we have a little bit of a lull here, because I really want to start making changes to the website to try and get more people on the mailing list and, get more people listening to the shows. And then also, just do some other things to get traffic. But I don't think we have time in the next 5 minutes to dig deep into that. But yeah, any ideas you have, I'm probably just going to solicit them over email, and probably also in the Entreprogrammers group.
Yeah.
And just see what people think. I was going to get the website redesigned, but that kind of fell apart. So I'm still kind of working on it, but I'm not sure exactly how that's going to all pan out. So
I think it'd be cool if you innovated some way in this area, because like build like a podcast player app or something that's specific, that has all of your podcasts in there, like your network, or, and then have that like have like a push model from there, or have some kind of messaging platform from there. I know some people have done that before, but just based on the fact that you don't have one podcast, you have so many podcasts, and you're really you could probably benefit from having some kind of unique technology. Because I don't know if you're going to redesign the website, and I guess, I mean, maybe if you don't go that route, it's worth considering that redesigning the website to increase conversions from podcasts is unlikely to happen. It's unlikely to move the needle, because how much are you really going to increase the conversion rate? What it seems like your biggest leverage point is, I mean, you've got to get people from the podcast that are listening to the podcast to go to, or to do something to sign up. So maybe, I don't know if you have like a text message to sign up, or like you could experiment with some kind of giveaways, like text blah, blah, blah to here, and then you'll get, entered into this thing or whatever it is. Experimenting with things like that probably is going to move the needle more, I think.
Yeah, that's true. That's kind of an interesting play too. But yeah, one, I want to grow the podcast audiences, and I think beyond SEO, website design doesn't necessarily drive that. But yeah, and then I want to increase conversions of people from the podcast. And yeah, maybe it is text to join instead of, having better offers on the website or something. I don't know.
Because they're probably not going to the, I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, you either have to push people to the website, or just straight to text. I just say straight to text to join, because that most people are consuming on their mobile device. So it's like people that like, there's so many podcasts I listen to that I've never gone to the website of the podcast. But if someone made such an offer, but there have been some podcasts, like I remember, I think one of the first podcasts I ever went to the website was Pat Flynn, because he had some kind of offer. He's like, episode /73 or whatever it was, and it had something on there that I wanted, and so I went to it. But
yeah, that makes sense. And I actually have a couple of people who that I've met at CES that do the text messaging stuff, kind of like Twilio, but they can give me a way better deal than Twilio can. So
yeah, I'd try it out, see if that will work.
It's definitely worth thinking about. So
one thing I figured out too is, like, I should have I just assumed that with the email list that we were reaching everyone, but like as my videos started coming out, it's kind of similar thing where I'm just assuming people are going to the website, but they're not, because as soon as the videos started coming out from me traveling Europe, right? People are like, "Oh, I'm in Stockholm," and I'm like, "Well, I was there 3 weeks ago," and I sent an email saying I was going to be in Stockholm. And so, I mean, I did a video just recently. Actually, Josh, you'll like this video because I did a video that it should be coming out pretty soon, where I was like, "Hey, if you're on this YouTube channel and you are not signed up to the email list, you need to sign up, because this is what you're listening to now is 3 weeks delayed. So if you want to know what's happening now, this is how I communicate live in real time. So you don't have to buy shit if you don't want to. I do advertising there, but sign up just so you at least get the messages, so you know where I am in the world, or or what the
Nice.
Yeah.
So that should get a bunch of signups for you. Yeah, but it's a similar problem, right? Like I'm just assuming people are coming to the site. They're not. They're just watching YouTube videos. They don't even know. Like the first time they figure out that I'm in Europe is that it's from a YouTube video. So because that's the medium that they're consuming.
It's Friday. It's always
Friday.
Friday, I guess.
All right. Well, should we wrap it up?
I think so. Yep.
I gotta go run for like 2.5 hours. Not only this, this is the other thing about Italian race. Like you sign up for a race in the United States, it's like, oh, you get a t-shirt and you get a medal, right? They're like, we're only guaranteeing that the first 2,000 finishers get medals. So I'm like, not gonna run this thing fast. I'm not gonna do all this work.
Nice.
I'm not gonna fucking medal. So
Nice. So they've got rationing going on there.
exactly. So that'll be fun.
Yep.
All right, shall we do our thoughts?
Yeah, let's do it. I feel like I blew my wad with thoughts.
The whole first part of the show.
Yeah.
Trying to think of what my thoughts are.
I mean, one other thing that I can just throw out there, one of my neighbors was talking about wanting to get up early. And, I've been doing that off and on, for years. I get good at it and then I get bad at it. And so I just looked at him. I said, well, I'll text you at 5 a.m. and you text me at 5 a.m. and then we'll know we're up. And, sometimes it is that simple. You don't have to do it all yourself. Just get somebody to hold you accountable on one thing that you're not currently doing that you think you should or know you should. There's my thought.
I'm going to sort of go along with the theme that with your success with the following up. So this week, I told you that in Europe, or in Italy at least, that like for August, everyone's gone. Like it's closed, like all the gyms are closed and stuff. So last Friday, like I think I tried on Saturday. Maybe I'm trying to think it was Friday night or Saturday. Either way, it was. Oh yeah. Maybe it was. It was Monday. It was Monday night after this podcast. After we did the podcast on Monday night, I went to gyms that are supposed to be open, right after the holidays. So I walked down to 2 gyms and they weren't open. Both of them, right? Even though they're supposed to be open at this time, right? And it's like so it's like we recorded the podcast at like 6:00 p.m. And I'd already gone to 4 gyms on Friday, and those were all closed. And I ended up working out in the park, right, on the teeter-totter. And so, I go to these other gyms. So we record the podcast at for me, it was like 6, finish at 7. And then I walk to these gyms. It takes me 2 hours or an hour to just walk to these 2 gyms that are both closed. So, every reasonable person at this point would probably be like, fuck it. Just like you're not gonna be able to work out. You're not gonna be able to lift today, so that's fine. Or just do some pull-ups or some push-ups or something. But I was like, no, I'm not accepting this. So I found this gym at the train station. So I was like, okay, think logically. Like, what gym has to be open, and like stop making the limitation being in walking distance. At this point, you're wasting too much more time. And so I was like, you know what? I was thinking about it. I was like, okay, the gym at the train station. If there's a gym there, that one will be open because there's always like that has the highest chance. So I got an Uber. I took a 20-minute ride to the train station, and the gym there was open. So I have a gym to work out here in Rome that's open. But it was like, just the amount of effort that I had to go through just to get a gym. But that's I was thinking about. It's like that's what it takes. Is like you've got to be willing to like. There's so many points in where you can be like, oh well, I gave it a good try, and it's pretty reasonable to give up at this point. But no, no, that's where most people stop. Like you have to be willing to go further to be able to say, I'm going to keep on knocking, keep on trying. And then eventually, if you just keep on knocking and keep on trying, like something is going to give. Like you're going to find some way around that wall, some crack, and you're gonna go through it. But if you stop short, like most people do, then it's you're gonna have a perfectly valid excuse, and it's gonna be fine. Everyone, you're gonna have a conversation at dinner, and everyone's gonna be like, yeah, that's why your life sucked, and it wasn't your fault, and they'll all agree with you and shake their head. But it's not going to get you the result that you want. So even when an excuse is valid, you still got to, you can't accept it. So.
Yeah, I think I'll go with with John being away, I'm getting a definite taste of a reminder of what it's like to work on your own. And it's not fun.
So lonely.
Yeah, it's not nearly as much fun. So I don't think everybody should rush out and find a partner for their business. But if you're not in, at least in some kind of mastermind or some kind of support group, you really don't try to hack this on your own. You're gonna run out of steam. You need people around you that you can talk to and just kind of keep you interested and keep you pumped up with what you're working on. This is a long haul, and you need a cheerleading squad.
Yep. Totally agree.
Yep.
All right. Same bad time, same bad channel.
Yep.
I think I'll be in Firenze.
Firenze?
Firenze. Yeah, that's it. One of those.
Nice. All right, guys. See you next week.
All right. Yeah.
All right. Bye.
Wanna start a business, but you just know how to code. Listen to John, Josh, and Derek as we figure it out. We are the Entreprogrammers, and we'll teach you straight up to be developer